It's like if NDSU's front four can't get home and cause pressure on a big, nasty Eastern line that's improving, I think that will speak volumes in terms of the trouble they could be in moving forward in the season.
Welcome to the official podcast of FCS Fans Nation with your hosts Kyler Neal, Matthew Frazee, and Jamie Williams.
FCS Fans Nation. It is amazing that when you take games off of prime time, how successful you can really be. Welcome to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. We are on your primetime airways, coming to you this morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're listening. Jamie Williams, Kyler Neal, Matt Frazee, the crew is back. We had a blast with the Rev last week, but we got the main group going this week through your airways, guys, because we have a full slate to eat off of FCS matchups coming up this weekend. Pumped for what's coming up this weekend. We are so thankful that you're joining us, and we're thankful for our sponsors tonight, Walk On Apparel and the Versus Sports Simulator. And Mr. Neal, Matt Frazee, going to battle this week down in Minneapolis. Kyler, I don't think I'm going to be seeing you, but I think I will be seeing our good friend Kelsey down there in the cities. Where are you going to be watching this game from, since you're not going to be joining us at US Bank Stadium this weekend?
I don't know. I'm sure there's a funeral for an NDSU player I can attend. I don't know. I'm probably just going to watch it at my house, to be honest. I'm going to have some beer, have some steak. I've been gone away from the house a long time, so this is probably just want to relax at home, watch a good game. But, this is Walk On Apparel, baby. Look at how good they are. So
yeah,
nice.
And I wish I had something like that with the water tower in it. That is pretty dope.
Yeah.
I, of course, had to rock the time we won a championship after 2018. I forget who we played that year. And then
Wouldn't know.
the Twins hat, of course. I would never own Minnesota Vikings apparel because I like America's team. So, but I do have a Twins hat. I figured
The Mariners?
the Mariners, the Bills. What is going on? What?
Hey, the Bills wear red, white, and blue.
Okay. I'll give you credit there. That is pretty American. But I am excited to go down there. I'll see Kelsey this weekend. Should be a good time. She can share some Sour Patch with my two oldest boys that'll be with me and my wife down there. So I'll probably be babysitting halfway through the game. Not a lot of tailgating and drinking, but hopefully it'll be a good matchup, and I won't teach the kids any new words. So Jamie Williams, we're excited to get things going tonight for the Big Seven. But before we do, are you ready for JMU, your Dukes, to take on an FCS matchup this week?
Oh, yeah, we got a real tough one there against Powerhouse Bison ourselves, the Bucknell Bison. I might have rated them 110 or something, but neither here nor there. But just so that you guys see I'm not picking sides, I love you both equally. I have my Eastern hat and my NDSU shirt. So Papa's not picking between the kids.
Will you move your mic up a little bit more, though? Not your mic, damn it, your camera. It's been no, the other way. There you go. Get that bottom crap out of the screen.
I was like, where's he going with this? Oh, okay. I see what he's doing. Cutting off the letters of the NDSU. Well, we'll have to see. We're definitely going to talk about that matchup, guys. We're going to talk about a lot of big matchups and recap a few of the big games from week 0, all the big stuff in the Big Seven.
The top 7 FCS topics of the week. This is the Big 7.
All right, gentlemen, let's kick things off from the Rev, who joined us last week, along with Mr. Andrew Markham. Combine their questions here to kick off the Big 7 topics. And what we have here, guys, is Mercer not as advertised, or do they need to shake the rust off, asked the Rev. As you guys saw, Mercer did come away with a victory over North Alabama during week 0, but Mercer's been pretty promoted up as to maybe finally taking this next leap, and they didn't look overly impressive. Andrew adds on to there, is Mercer not that great, or is North Alabama and the UAC better than we thought? So let's break this Mercer matchup down a little bit. And Jamie, you're the ranker, man. I mean, 127 teams. What'd you see out of Mercer that impressed, and are you concerned about them maybe a little bit?
I'm definitely a little concerned about them. I did like that when it was necessary, Ty James did step up and make a couple of plays, including the one really nice touchdown. That was a kind of a dime. But it's kind of exactly what I wanted to see or what I thought I needed to look at from Mercer. And I didn't come away super impressed because I've just said why I don't have Mercer in my top 25 is because I'm not sold on Carter Peavy. And he was efficient-ish, 12 out of 17. But even when he won Freshman of the Year in the spring season by the media, even though Seth Morgan was a much better player, the coaches got that one right, he averaged 146 yards a game. Look at this, 115 yards passing, 31 yards rushing, 146 yards. Now, he did enough to win. He made some smart plays, but there was a lot of sloppiness from Mercer. I'm going to kind of chalk it up to first game jitters, but you've got to beat North Alabama by more than that. And, I mean, maybe North Alabama is a little bit improved, but not by the stats. I mean, Mercer does have a decent defense, but I just did not come away impressed. I was looking for more of a 31-7 type of game from Mercer to say, okay, this team's on the ride up. But I'm also not ready to write them off because it was one game. Let's see what they do. I know they've got Ole Miss this week, so throw that one in the bag. And let's see what they do as they get into the rest of their schedule. One less week to prep. But, yeah, not super impressed with Mercer, but not ready to bury them yet either. But they're still not going in the rankings.
I want to give a lot of credit to North Alabama, though, too. I mean, even when you look across the statistics, I mean, they average over 4 yards a rush, which is exactly what you want to see as a team. Quarterback was very efficient. 7.7 yards receiving on an average is not great, but obviously it's kind of like the North Alabama Lions come from a very long legacy of success, at the level before FCS and D2. And programs don't stay down for a while, man. So it wouldn't surprise me to see North Alabama start to show some promise at least. So I wasn't as surprised just because I've always had faith in North Alabama. Eventually the FCS level is going to get it figured out. And I think they did okay. So I'm impressed by North Alabama. I want to give them a little more credit than just Mercer being not as impressive. But Kyler, what do you think, man? Split the difference here. I mean, what should we take away from this?
So North Alabama, man, I mean, they did not win a D1 game last year. They struggled the year before, only had 3 total wins. And then the year before, it was that weird, spring. And I think they had 4 FBS games or something weird. But, right, they've only had 3 Division I wins in the 2020s. That's not good.
That's not good.
Maybe they are going to improve. They are a historically good D2 program. There's a lot of D2 programs who come up here and don't succeed right away. Some do succeed, like an NDSU, like a South Dakota State, but there's a little bit of a learning curve. One thing about North Alabama that intrigues me is when Jacksonville State leaves, does that help create the room for North Alabama to start succeeding? Because Jacksonville State was kind of that FCS program in Alabama. When they move up to the FBS, maybe there's a new FCS program that's going to be able to break through and start winning some games. But overall, I mean, it's week 1. It's really hard to judge because what we've seen is like I just said, a North Alabama that really struggled. They had some close games last year where some of those games they probably should have won or could have won. But again, they won a big fat 0 against Division I. So I don't know, is Mercer, have they improved over last year? Are they finally going to be that playoff team? Or was it first game jitters? Or is North Alabama improving that much? Or is Mercer not that good? All I'll say is when I watched, half of this game, because it bored the crap out of me, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't impressed by anything I saw on both sides of the ball. North Alabama looked bad. Mercer looked bad, which is kind of a bummer because all preseason and through this offseason, I've been kind of praising the SoCon, which is weird for me. Normally I trash on them, and now I praise them, and now they look like crap versus arguably the worst team or one of the worst non-Pioneer League teams last year. So I don't know. Maybe it's just week 1. We'll have to see how it plays out. It's really hard for people to jump the gun. Guess what? A win's a win. Every single team who has won a championship has looked kind of bad in even one game, right? So it's hard to just push Mercer completely out of the discussion. But I don't know. Not one of them looked good. Not one player looked good. Not one team looked good. Not one coach looked good. Not the fans looked bad. Everything was shitty last.
And that's just kind of what I was getting at too. Is like I said, I'm not ready to write them off, but gosh, I had higher expectations. It's one of those teams that I debated putting somewhere in the 22 to 25 range, and
Yeah.
they sure didn't look like a 22 to 25 team. And they'll have other opportunities to do so, but it wasn't it this past weekend.
So can they survive the SoCon? And Andrew Markham is our second question. Andrew has some great ones all throughout it. I have to get him some margaritas one day. He wants to ask, is the SoCon actually not going to be that strong of a conference? Which is a great segue. You guys did that naturally. And so here's the thing. Mercer, of course, is not like the standard by any means in the SoCon right now. You've got teams people are high on like Chattanooga. You've got your Furman, of course, who people are very high on. So does this say anything about the SoCon, or is this more about Mercer, Kyler? What do you think, man?
I'm not ready to write off the SoCon just yet, right? At the end of the day, a win is a win. It's a long season. This is week 0. It's not even week 1, right? So they didn't get as much time. But yeah, it's hot. It's a neutral site game. Right now, you have Furman, Samford, Western Carolina, Chattanooga, and Mercer, who could all make some type of splash. Again, I didn't see it from Mercer this weekend, but I'm not ready to write them off. There has been some bad games played in the first few weeks of the season where that team ends up being a playoff contender. So again, I think the SoCon is still solid. I think it's improved over at least what they've been since maybe 2013. And I think we have a big year for the SoCon. I'm not ready to write them out yet, but I am getting a little bit more nervous about rooting for the SoCon this year. I'll just say that.
And teams like in the Valley and others, they, the power threes, if you will, Kevin's favorite term, is they do get a lot of passes. I will give him and others who are big SoCon and other fans credit where they go. It's amazing how many passes people in the media and elsewhere will give subpar CAA Missouri Valley teams when they're probably not as good as they're talking about. Just because they play where NDSU wins championships or SDSU wins championships doesn't mean you are better than somebody else within that conference. So we've seen other teams who still had great seasons start a little slow. This isn't a new mystery. And Jamie, you've been very vocal about CAA and SoCon and where that kind of sits for you. Are you nervous about the SoCon, or you still feel kind of good about where these guys are at?
It's overreaction Monday. I mean, we're going to take everything we saw this past weekend and just amplify it. Why? Because there were 3 games, and it's the only thing that we've got. And I'm not willing to judge how the SoCon is going to be off of a bad performance by Mercer. At the end of the day, Mercer got the win. I'd give it a few weeks. I think in 3 or 4 weeks, you're going to see who that the SoCon teams, your Furman, your Samford, Mercer, we'll see what Western Carolina has. And then we'll be able to really answer this question probably 4 weeks in the season. And I bet you we can say that for pretty much every question here.
Yeah.
Sorry for the rambling, but I was just trying to get to the JMU point.
So podcast over. We're going to answer all your questions in 5 weeks.
It's coming in week 4. We'll answer then. The only thing we know is SDSU at that point is 4-0 and better than everybody. But everybody else will
right after the Rev reviews his poll.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, what sure looks like to be a pretty darn good team, regardless, even though it's week 0, would be Jackson State. Holy moly. So Jason Blocken wants to know what happened to South Carolina State. Were they caught up in the emotion of Buddy P's announcements, or does Jackson State finally have the coach it was missing to align with the athletes on the field? An absolute butt kicking of epic proportions as Jackson State looked holy crap good. Jamie, you have been so vocal about talent of Jackson State, but you are not a prime fan in terms of how he approaches the game as a coach. Great recruiter, poor coach in your opinion, and you might have been onto something because it looked like talent met coaching. Or did South Carolina State actually just lose so much from last year? This is a big mismatch. What do you see?
I think we're looking at a little of both here. South Carolina State was a 3-8 team last year. I did think they would get a little bit of a bump. Coach Pugh announced he is retiring at the end of the year. I thought they would come out amped up, but it just didn't happen. TC Taylor had that team ready to play. I'm sure he was in there saying, look, Prime ain't here. Prime ain't coming. Put it on the bulletin board that everybody's doubting you. Go out there and show them who we are. And Jason Brown at quarterback, I know he's transferred all over the place. He actually started at St. Francis, and I saw him play live. And, St. Francis against JMU is not going to do a lot. But he had a couple of plays where you could see that arm strength and say he could be something. So he transferred a couple times, winds up at Jackson State, and just had a monster game. And the other transfer that they have, Irvin Mulligan, was the only thing Wofford had for about 2 years. And I think he had, I can't see it there, 15 carries and had a great game. So Jackson State still has some talent like I thought they still had, but I wanted to see, how TC Taylor would do. Would he coach them up? And they were ready to go. They came in there and they just dominated from the opening kickoff on. So was very impressed, very, very impressed. And it was like one of those things, like I said about Mercer. I wanted to see it before I put them back up into the top 25. And after one game, I've seen it. They've got FAMU this week, and we'll see if we can see it again.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge matchup versus the Rattlers. Kyler, what do you think, man? That was an absolute butt kicking. I don't know how much more I can add to that besides an absolute slaughter. Congrats to the Jackson State fans. Hell of a crowd too. Great environment on ABC. You got higher faith in them now moving forward?
Yeah, because I kind of said they would take a big step back just because I didn't think, a bulk of their talent, as what I said, at the end of the last season or maybe even in the preseason, was a bulk of their talent left. Obviously, I was a little bit wrong. They are extremely talented. This team, they dominated on every aspect of this game. Realistically, this probably could have been a 48-0 game if they just kept on. This was pure domination. South Carolina State, they didn't even look like they were in the same tier. Jason Brown, he missed 4 balls. It didn't feel like it. Everyone was open. There was nothing that South Carolina State could do. The defensive side of Jackson State looks freaking phenomenal. Offensive side looks like they didn't miss a step. Jackson State, man, I had them off my preseason top 25. They're on it. They are going to be a nightmare for every single team in the SWAC, and I don't think the FAMU game is going to go very well. I think I might like Jackson State better than I liked them last year.
Ooh, dang.
Now, it's week 1.
Dang.
I just said, who cares about week 1? Don't overreact. And look at me overreacting. But all I know is it was the opposite of the game I watched before. This actually looked like a very good, talented team just beating the crap out of a team that didn't even belong in the same conversation with them.
It's hard to overlook how well they executed.
It was
because in the past,
close.
they would score 40 and some points, but it was on sheer talent. And yes, there's a ton of talent there, but you can see execution more than just the talent standing through. It was execution to play Jason Brown.
They're good.
Jason Brown probably better than Shador, but nobody will ever believe that.
But
take Jamie.
I got a little counter here. North Alabama being terrible last year and not being a good program. Not saying South Carolina State's not a good program. What I'm saying is 3-8, not impressive in the previous season. Right now, the Rattler fans are like, okay, crown them. If Mercer had destroyed North Alabama in this way, we could also just be, we could praise them all we want, but level of competition does matter, right? Yep. South Carolina State might just be an awful team this year. They might be very, very bad. And the Rattlers are a talented squad. So I don't think in any world. South
Carolina State had as many wins as basically North Alabama has had all decade. So,
but they're both bad. And I don't want to go much further into this because maybe the game of the week might give us a little insight between snakes and tigers. You never know. So, but a fun matchup that is fun and enjoyable to watch is anytime the high-flying offense of an American bald eagle meets the thundering plains and run game of the North Dakota Bison. So here you go. From Mr. Brandon Anderson, he wants to know, with NDSU supposedly having a better receiving core than usual and Eastern having a better rushing attack than usual, could both teams show a more balanced offense in the game? So let's break down this big matchup. It's US Bank Stadium. Eastern looking to get back on the winning track from a rough year last year. NDSU back healthy, hopefully not injury or portal plagued, and ready to see if they can get back up in the tier, which they believe they could belong to, like SDSU. So, I mean, Kyler and I are going to go back and forth here quite a bit, I assume. Jamie, where do you kind of land to start this whole conversation between these two teams in the Vikings Stadium?
As far as NDSU, let me see it on the receivers, because I haven't seen a lot of good passing game action from NDSU in a while. But maybe it's there. The one thing I did kind of notice when I looked at the 2-deep that was released today, it's a very, very experienced team. Might not have gotten a ton of playing time, but you got a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors. They've played a lot of games. They've seen a lot of things. So they're going to be ready. I expect the defense is still going to be able to get up, stop the run. And they're going to try to get into the offensive backfield. And then it's, they'll be able to run the ball. And then can Cam Miller manage the game? And I sometimes hate to say the word manage the game, because that just kind of, downgrades the quarterback. But Cam has shown flashes, but he's also shown flashes of being terrible. So he manage the game and not turn the ball over. From an Eastern side, the question was like, do they have a better running game than normal? If you actually watched Eastern the last while, the running game is not bad. They've had good running backs, but it's always been overshadowed by how good the passing offense is. So they've had a balanced offense. I just want to see which quarterback Eastern goes with, how he looks, against a tough defense, and how close this game will be. I still think North Dakota State's probably going to win by a couple of scores. That could be a field goal and a touchdown. It could be 21 points. I don't know. I think NDSU still, they're still NDSU. So until I see somebody go in there and pop them, I'm going to pick them. But I do think there's going to be a much better Eastern team than we saw last year, just from what I've seen, what I've heard Kyler say. But
I said nothing.
You've said plenty.
Stuck.
I've tried to listen to it all. So I expect this to be a very good game. I'm not looking at a 51-10 kind of game. I think we're closer to the back and forth game we got in 2018.
I'm very intrigued by NDSU this year because I don't think the passing game is going to be vastly improved by any means. Zach Mathis is a good receiver. You got Nelson on the outside, but these guys aren't much more than what we've had the past couple seasons. And then Cam Miller, yeah, he's a game manager. He's not the kind of guy who's going to take over and get you where you need to be. He's going to manage the game, do the proper things. So the run game has to be going. But I think NDSU really this year, I don't think they're remotely as talented as South Dakota State. But I think the guys that are after years of portal and changes and shifts, and I just think they have the guys who are ready to be there outside of one or two outliers. That will always happen. I think the set culture of where it wants to go under NIL and transfer portal is there. I think these are exactly what Jamie said. These are high-end seniors and juniors who've waited their time, some who didn't even start last year, who are now getting their chance because guys moved out or moved on. And I think this is going to be one of the more tight-knit Bison teams that you're going to see. I don't think it's going to be sexy. I don't think it's going to be flashy. But I think it's going to be more sound. I think it's going to be more disciplined. I think it's going to be the NDSU that you expect to see on the field. I think the defensive line is going to be way more improved. And I think even seeing the depth chart today where you see more of that senior leadership across it is going to be good. And I just think you're going to see guys who've waited for their chance. That doesn't always equate to talent, but it does equate to maybe things looking out for the team and the Bison way. And a lot of the things that we've kind of landed on in terms of the culture of the Bison, I think that's going to be back this season. I think we're going to see it. And I think when you go up against a team like Eastern Washington, this is a huge test. I was messaging with Kyler about this. It's like, if NDSU's front four can't get home and cause pressure on a big, nasty Eastern line that's improving, I think that will speak volumes in terms of the trouble they could be in moving forward in the season. I think they have to be able to attack that offensive line with just sending 4 and maybe 1 blitzer and cause trouble and havoc for Eastern Washington. If they can't do that, that will be alarming for when you go up against those UNIs and the SDSUs and the others. So along with that, a young secondary versus Eastern who's going to sling that ball all over the place. And I think that's super intriguing too. If Eastern can make some mistakes and get up quick and make NDSU have to play behind and then learn from what Incarnate Word did not, you never know what could happen here. But I do think a really seasoned NDSU team is going to have some advantages. But Kyler, what do you think, man? Tell me, what do you think? Why do you think NDSU is going to win the game? Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. If NDSU is more balanced, God, I hope they are. The main reason is because, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, Eastern was the worst run defense last year I've ever seen in my life. Now,
hey, that was our pass offense.
Yeah, it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Literally, we were ranked dead last in the FCS. We were so bad. So if NDSU comes out more balanced, guess what? We were a solid pass defensive team, and everyone returns. We are going to be even better as a pass defensive team than we were last year. Now, we did bring in some on the D-line and the linebacker, some actual transfers. Normally, Eastern doesn't play the transfer portal as well as other teams. We did this year and got a lot of experience. We got a all Patriot League team linebacker who's actually going to show up. We got some UCLA transfers, and we actually got some transfers on the defensive side that should be able to make a splash. Offensively, I think we're going to be closer to a 2020 offense, 2019 offense than we were last year. But again, I don't know. All I know is Eastern should be a balanced program. Are we going to be able to go toe-to-toe with NDSU's line? I'm not sure. I just looked at Eastern Washington's too deep before I got on this podcast, before even we messaged. The line is still going to be thicker than NDSU, but they're not all the tall guys I thought that are on the too deep. So some of the guys I thought maybe could earn that starter position, they're not. So we're not going to be that much bigger. We are weight-wise, height-wise, we're actually going to be a little bit smaller than NDSU this year, which is kind of a bummer. But yeah, I think Eastern is going to be solid. But again, if we're talking about balance, and yeah, Eastern's going to be balanced. I really hope NDSU is balanced, just because if they're not, Eastern doesn't get on the field at all. NDSU just runs down the field and they capitalize, and it's a 30-7 game, and Eastern Washington does nothing because can't get on the field, can't get in a rhythm. So please, for the love of God, please be balanced. And I think Eastern Washington will fare better if NDSU is throwing more.
Has Coach Best announced who's going to start at quarterback? Or was it?
Oh, yeah. It's Kikoa.
Kikoa, okay.
Yeah, Kikoa 100%. And then we got Wortham as our backup, who you'll probably see in a few scenarios. He's also our kick returner. If that says anything about the speed of this quarterback, the second string quarterback is by far the fastest guy I have seen in Eastern Washington in a very long time. So you're probably going to see some schemes where we're going to have our backup quarterback in as running back or in as a weird wildcat type of option. But overall, yeah, Kikoa, he's way more talented than Gunner, 100% night and day difference in terms of talent, but he is still young. He's only played in one game against Northern Colorado. So, he may make some of those almost freshman, sophomore type mistakes that you will see, especially against an NDSU team in an NFL stadium. That's a lot of pressure going in for basically your second overall start. But man, is he talented. I would say he's up there in between a Vernon Adams and a Eric Barrier in terms of actual talent. Will he execute the same way? I have no clue. He's a good dual threat quarterback. It should be fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. If you're telling me who to bet on, I'm not saying that. All I'm going to say is Eastern should be quite a bit more improved, and I hope NDSU throws as much as possible. That will give Eastern a much better chance to be competitive or win in this game if NDSU is slinging the ball.
Well, we'll see if that passing game improves. I have little faith, but it should be a fun matchup.
Throw it. Please throw it.
We'll see what happens. All right, guys. Andrew Markham coming back here with another great one. He wants to know, with the added 2 at-large bids in the playoffs, will we see an HBCU start to be a norm in the playoffs, or will we see them not be selected due to strength of schedule? This is a really good question, and of course, it's scenario-based. And we all know that people who are like, they don't even play in the playoffs. That's not true. They forego their auto bid to go to the Celebration Bowl. They can come to the playoffs anytime they want, and they can still send representation. So, from the MEAC and the SWAC, Jamie, you spoke on this really well last time, talking about how those at-large bids can affect things. Do you see an HBCU squad starting to be the norm? I know with the Rattlers, they were in 2 years ago, and they were in our conversation when we did our live mock. So that's 2 years in a row they've at least been in the conversation or made it. Is that going to be a norm or no?
I think that's exactly what's going to be the norm. That's going to be in the conversation on the bubble. But what's going to hurt them are just exactly what Andrew said, is the strength of schedule for them and their conference is never going to be high, unfortunately, because they also don't get a big challenge out of conference. They'll play, probably a D2 team. A lot of them will. And, regionally, like a Pioneer team, kind of almost like a CAA, except CAA doesn't play D2. But what also could work against them is how the HBCU teams have performed in the playoffs. The last two have been Florida A&M and NC-A&T, who have been exceptional teams, especially that A&T team, and they both got run off the field. So while it should just focus on what's this year saying, it's not like that. People think about what's happened in the past, and I think that's going to work against them. But I do see the norm being that next best team is going to be at least in the bubble conversation. But I would never quit the Celebration Bowl because it gets the views, it gets the attendance, and it's just a fun game to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the HBCU thing is, I don't really have much more to add on to there, Jamie. I agree. It's like I wish they were in the playoffs every year, but Celebration Bowl is really where it's at for them. Kyle, you see more representation, hopefully, or we're going to kind of just stay on par with where we've been at?
I mean, the goal is the hopefully, right? All three of us, we would absolutely, and I think a lot of the actual FCS fans that interact with us daily, we would love to see more HBCUs in the playoffs. They bring more eyeballs. It's a more fun atmosphere, right? We've seen the celebration. We've seen the classics. We want that in the playoffs. 100% want it. But unfortunately, there is just a narrative. And Jamie kind of spoke on this a little bit, right? The past 20 years, not one HBCU team has done extremely even okay in the playoffs. And a part of that is because they're sending their best teams to the Celebration Bowl. And I get it. So you're getting, the second, the third place teams. Those are the ones that are actually going to fight for a playoff spot. And for any conference, and even a too big league, that's going to hurt the perception of your conference. So unfortunately, because they have done so bad in the playoffs, in the 2000s, even, the 90s, it hurts. So until they start playing a tougher out-of-conference schedule to prove, hey, we can compete with a Missouri Valley team, we can compete with a CAA team and regularly do it, which I don't see that happening. There's a lot of D2 teams on the schedule and a lot of lower-tier teams on the schedules. Until they prove it, unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to be able to see it. You're going to see a 9-win team every now and then get in, like a Florida A&M, but then they get crushed. And then do you give that 9-win team again the playoff option, or do you go, okay, maybe there's a 6-7-win Missouri Valley team who's at least going to be more competitive? It's a bummer, man, but I think right now, until they start proving it in the out-of-conference schedule and strengthening it up, there's just this narrative that we can't ignore. It is a narrative based off of facts from games that have actually happened, which is unfortunate because we want those teams in the playoffs. It would be so much better. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we see any type of change. Maybe a team every 4 years like we see right now, 2016, 2021, or, it was 2021. But, yeah, unfortunately, that's just the case.
Yeah, when you get to the playoffs, performance there matters as well. And that will only help you in the future. It shouldn't matter about the past, but unfortunately, I think humans are humans, and that can seep into people's minds. So, all right, guys, Jason Plotkin wants to know, is Incarnate Word a team that reloads, or will they be more rebuild as they begin their season against a UTEP program that seems ripe for the picking? So what do you think, Kyler? And Jamie's he's got his top 127 rankings with Incarnate Word. I think most people would have him maybe a little higher than where he's got him. Are you sold that Incarnate Word is transfer you, reload you now, or was last year an outlier? Like, where are we sitting? Where are we at with them?
Before I started paying attention to them, and before we had some insider information about them, from maybe some Incarnate Word fans, so who knows how biased they really are. I thought they were going to regress. I'm starting to think this is almost a for sure semifinal caliber team with what I've heard on who they've brought in, the positions. I would be very terrified to play this Incarnate Word team because there is a chance they could potentially even be better than they were last year after they lost the coach and everyone.
What?
This is a team that brought in not just FBS talent, FBS starting talent. That is the difference. When you see a lot of these transfers, it's, we played in a game here or there. This is different. What they have brought in, I would be terrified of this team. They need to improve defensively from last year. I think they might be improved defensively, and even if they're slightly worse offensively, that is a freaking dangerous offense. So, yeah, man, good luck, UTEP. Good luck, UTEP.
Good luck, North America, because in week 4 they play all of North America, according to Google.
Yeah, that's the
the
still All-American team.
That's the entire country that they play.
Is that even NAIA? I don't know where North American is.
No, it's right in between Mexico and Canada.
Thanks, bud.
Jamie Williams, what do you think, man? I love those Incarnate Word guys, and I love everything about the margaritas we share and the conversations and the photos they shared with us for Frisco and everything. God, there's a part of me that hopes I'm wrong because I honestly would have loved to see them play SDSU last year in the championship. As crazy as that sounds,
they matched up better.
They're going to be with Lindsey Scott and everything. They're going to be better this year. God, I find that hard to believe. I really find that difficult.
So last year they got a transfer. They got Lindsey Scott from Nichols. Yeah, good player. Nobody believed in him except for Sam Herder because Sam's the best. And this year they have Zach Calzada, who beat Alabama when he played in the FBS. That just goes along with as a starter. And I know that a lot of times when you talk to people that are close to teams, you're going to get a homer type of take. But I really feel like when you talk to the people that we have talked to with Incarnate Word, what they told us last year was right. And it was about specific players, and they could tell us where they had their deficiencies too. So those are the guys I'm much more likely to believe, other than the guy who's just beating the drum, saying Carter Peavy's going to be a great quarterback. Okay, bud.
Well, and like to rebuttal on that, they weren't bragging that this team was going to be fantastic. What they said is, I don't know if this team's going to gel well together or not, but what they said is the talent on this team is so much better than anything they've ever seen at Incarnate Word. So if they can figure out a way to gel it, they're going to be very good. But again, they were like, we don't know. We could be a semifinal team, a championship caliber team, or we might not make the playoffs. They were very humble in talking about their team. All they said is from everything they've talked with the coaches have never seen anything like this from any of the players that they've ever coached. So again, who knows? But I don't know. I would be nervous playing them.
I think they got to put themselves in a position to make this happen. And this is so far down the line, but it starts with UTEP. I think they have to beat UTEP to put themselves in a playoff position to go on a route to get to where they want to go. You do not want to go back to a Fargo Dome. You don't want to go to a Brookings. You don't want to end up in a Montana State. You want to set yourself up in the best position to be in the best spot. Your strength of schedule is not going to help you. But your big game like Southeastern Louisiana, that's coming to Incarnate Word. Win that game. Because beating HBU and Lamar and North America is not going to do anything. Northern Colorado, trash. So you got to beat UTEP so everyone goes, okay. And then I think you got to run the table to put yourself in a position to avoid those scary, scary places to go in the semifinals, in the quarterfinals, which could give you trouble. So I can buy that they're better within. I can buy that it's more talented, but they have to set themselves up in a position to avoid those death traps to find a way to get to Frisco.
I wouldn't bet on them playing like Montana State in the snow. I wouldn't bet on that type of offense performing well. Now, if they are as good as we think they are, would I bet on Montana State coming down to Incarnate Word? That's where it's a difference. But yeah, they don't want to go up north with that type of offense.
For sure.
Unless
And
it's
what they're
Citadel.
used to.
Yeah. Fargo is
I
the
mean-
easiest place for them to play with their style of play.
Yep. Yeah, but you're right, Matt. I mean, the forward looking is right. They've got to beat UTEP. And while we're talking about UTEP, let's just take a quick second to congratulate our friends at Cocky Nation and all of Jacksonville State on picking up their first FBS win this past weekend. That's awesome.
Good job, Brandon
Always-
Owens.
Always root for the teams that move up and show the success at the next level.
Absolutely, especially when we know that those type of teams are better than most of the G5, or at least could be competitive with them.
Especially UTEP.
Yeah, cool to see them go do it right away.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, speaking of the FCS to FBS, boy, you guys don't need me. You got these seamless transitions. Cody Werlinger wants to know what week 1 FCS FBS has the best chance of the upset, quote unquote. This is our last question here in the Big 7. So as we look across the board, and I'm going to pull up good old Hero Sports here for us. Let's take a look at some of these matchups. Has anybody identified one word that's kind of popping off for them? And I kind of want to put this one out there. I know they were bad last year. This one feels weird to me. I know they were terrible, but so is the FBS team. Maine at FIU, for some reason, I have a hunch about that. I know Maine was awful last year, but 9th in CUSA, how are you not vulnerable to the FCS? Even if the FCS team blows. So I just want it to be known that if you guys see Maine at FIU even be close, that I said it here. And reminder, FIU last year, Florida International, they beat Bryant by 1 point in overtime last season. Bryant by 1 point in overtime. That big, ugly logo dog, that brown team where you're just like, is that a golden brown puppy dog with a weird smile? Yeah, that team, 1 point. So I think Maine from the CAA might travel down there and cause some noise in Florida. So I wanted to go off the wall with it. Not so obvious. Jamie, you got your Dukes in the FBS, man. Who's vulnerable this weekend?
Well, that's part of the thing. When you look at it, when you're looking for bad FBS teams, they're also playing bad FCS teams. So I don't see that many. But there were 3 teams that I looked at that I was like, okay, they might be able to pull one off. So Southeast Missouri State plays Kansas State. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kansas State's still good. But that's as close as a matchup I could see. Parker McKinney and Eastern Kentucky, they play Cincinnati. What do the Bearcats have? If you made me say, you put a gun to my head and said you must bet on one, and this is a bad one too, Monmouth over Florida Atlantic for the same reasons you just said. Florida Atlantic, not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Monmouth, mid-pack CAA team with a little upside and a great running back. I don't see hardly any this week, 1 or 2. I just looking through the whole list of FBS, FCS matchups this year. There's not a lot ripe with for upset, and there's a lot of people saying Rhode Island and Georgia State. It's not going to happen. Mark it down, book it. Georgia State's offense is too good. I know they went 4-8 last year, but Darren Granger's a stud quarterback. I know Rhode Island's a good, experienced, senior-laden team. That's not the recipe for an upset. So all the people picking Rhode Island, sorry, Joe and Sean, I'm not picking on you. I don't see it. Georgia State, that offense is too good to fall to an FCS team.
Well, what about, there was the chest beating of Central Arkansas last week, Kyler. You weren't in on it. Can they go to Oklahoma State and win, or not that good? What do you think? You see some upsets this weekend?
That one's not going to be one. Probably the best one that no one's talked about is that has more realistic chances, Bucknell, right? I think they're extremely talented, especially compared to a dog that wears a crown. It makes no sense. No, I actually think we're going to see some picks. I do like Maine at FIU. I do like scroll up a little bit. I think I'm missing a few.
Vanderbilt sucks too. So Alabama and go in there and cause
I do think we have to be aware of the team we just talked about. Incarnate Word at UTEP. UTEP sucks. They lose to FCS teams all the time, not even good FCS teams, right? Remember when Northern Arizona was a 3-win team and beat them by 20? Like, going to UTEP is not anything you're going to be afraid of, especially an in-state Texas school only traveling 5 hours or so. Maybe it's a little bit further because Texas is so large, to a team that no one is going to be there supporting. UTEP fans suck. I do like UNI at Iowa State. They always seem to play, their in-state rivals, if you will, really tough. UNI is going to be a really solid program. But I know I'm missing one. Is that at the very top?
Yeah, that is at the top. I do like your call there.
I think Missouri State at Kansas. Kansas has improved over the last few years, but we remember Missouri State went toe-to-toe with, what was it, Arkansas last year?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
And Missouri State, they do have a new coach, right? So we'll see how well they do. But I just never believe in Kansas. And maybe that's bad because they are improving every single year. This is not the same Kansas team that stormed the field after they beat South Dakota, who was a 3-win team. Kansas has improved a little bit. But every single time they play an FCS team, I'm going to go, screw you, Kansas. You're not good. And I'm just going to probably take the bet, even though Missouri State probably is going to be bad this year.
Yeah,
so I like UNI. I like the Florida schools. I like UTEP, and then I like Kansas.
Yeah, I definitely just bypass the Incarnate Word UTEP just because I think that's almost like Incarnate Word should almost be favored.
They should be favored.
They should definitely be favored. But it's not going to – the final score won't have it, but damn it, Southern Utah is going to be ahead of Arizona State at some point.
You're Southern Utah. That man,
Arizona
if you had to pick a team, that's got to be them.
Arizona State sucks, and they're going to suck this year. Their players
they have a bowl
gave up
ban.
on them. Yep. Yeah, their players already gave up on them, but still Arizona State's going to beat them by 48 points.
Yeah, I just said Southern Utah will lead at some point. They're going to score first.
A 0-0 is ahead in my book.
3-0.
2-0.
3-0, 7-0.
I don't even want to bet on that.
The only type of math I like to do is
Matthew Frazee.
That and how many tacos should we eat tonight?
It's time to put your money where your mouth is. And if you're right, put some tacos in there too. This is Thompson's Taco Bets.
All right, guys, before we get into Thompson's Taco Bet, we are sponsored a little bit this year by two amazing businesses started by some amazing friends. One of those is Walk On Apparel. Mr. Kyler Neal is rocking it right now. The FCS Fans Nation podcast is brought to you by Walk On Apparel. Walk On Apparel specializes in FCS and mid-major apparel, and they believe that every fan base should have quality apparel options to rep the schools that they love. Along with you receiving a high-quality product, 10% of the profit from every sale is donated directly to the school's athletic fund. Super cool. So visit walkon-apparel.com and use code FCS Fans Nation to get 10% off of your purchase of your FCS and mid-major apparel. Limited schools are currently available with new releases monthly. Walk On Apparel, up the fans, up the culture. So thank you to Walk On Apparel, and make sure you guys go grab some of that gear to represent your school. And representing the Taco King tonight is us three. And Andrew Markham has given us a phenomenal Thompson Taco Bet. He says there are 42 FCS versus FBS games this week. The over-under is 2.5 FCS wins this week over FBS opponents. And Andrew is curious if you have some teams to provide for those upsets. So basically, will the FCS get over or under 2.5 wins this week over the FBS? And to make this more interesting, gentlemen, Mr. Jeremiah Rash did not have a question this week. Kind of. He said, I don't exactly have a game-related question, but which one of you guys wants a Jeremy Chin bobblehead? All three of us want it. They're giving them away at the SIU Austin P game. I'll have an extra who wants it. Okay, so you have to get the Taco Bet right, and then you have to give the number of FCS over FBS upsets. And whoever nails that or gets closest to it, I guess we'll do rock, paper, scissors, shoot if we have a tie for the number. We will post to Jeremiah Rash who gets this. So Jeremiah Rash, there's tacos on the line and the bobblehead in honor of yourself. So Jamie, what do you think? Over or under 2.5 FCS over FBS upsets, and then how many, depending on what you pick?
All right. So I think we all are kind of in the agreement that Incarnate Word should be 1. But I'm still going to take the under and say there's going to be 2. I just don't see a lot this week, and I'm going to take the under. And I know it's a low number. I'm putting it out there that I'm going to go, under. It's going to be 2. I don't know who else is going to get it. We rattled off some decent chances, but there's no other great chance that really jumps out at me. And the reason I'd like the bobblehead is my cousin is a Carolina Panthers fan, where Jeremy Chin plays a huge fan, so I would give it to him. It's not even for myself.
Ugh,
so,
gross.
Kyler, what do you think? Over under 2.5 and then the number.
I want it because I already got the helmet, and you're an Eastern Washington fan, Jeremy. So
Can't even say his name right.
It's Jeremiah. It's short for Jeremy. We go way back. It's going to be over. And I think Jamie is lowballing this because there's always really shitty FCS teams who still beat FBS teams. And I do think the talent gap is getting smaller and smaller versus the bottom of the G5 versus anyone in the FCS. So I think every single year the talent gap is getting actually a little bit worse. That's why James Madison can go in there and dominate. That's why Jacksonville State's probably going to be a Conference USA contender. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm doing it. We're doing at least. I'm going 6. I don't care. I'm going 6.
You know that's just this week, right?
Gosh.
6.
Just this week.
Just this week. Oh, yeah. We're going to have like 14 this season.
Dang, 6.
I wanted to say 5, but I feel like, I've drank in a few, so I'm feeling a little more optimistic. Real answer is 5, but I want to go 6, so I'm posting 6.
Well, here's the thing. You're going to win, Kyler, because the first thing would be over or under, and then it goes to how many you got right.
And you're going under?
I'm going to go under at 1. Wow. So I'm going to go under at 1. So if it's the under, Jamie's either going to be right at 2, or I'm going to be right at 1. I guess 0 would be a push.
Jeremiah, just start shipping it right now because it's definitely going over.
If it goes 3 or over, so this is simple. If it's 1, I win. 2, Jamie wins. If it's 3 or more, Kyler got it. If it's 0, I guess that means me, right? Because I was
F it. Then F it. We're having 42. Let's really go crazy. Who cares?
You just went Bob Barker on me. Went right under where I did, like betting $1.
Hey, rest in peace, Bob Barker. Even in life, you went right under the $1.99. Thanks for being there for us to run home to. And when we're sick on a morning growing up in elementary school, we could watch The Price is Right. So rest in peace, Bob. All right, guys. Great taco bet. I'll add it to the sheet and we'll enjoy those tacos in Frisco. Let's get to some quick hits.
Just because your question is answered quickly doesn't mean we don't care. These are the quick hit questions of the week.
All right, gentlemen, here we go. Adam Willie wants to know, how was everyone's off season and what is everyone's favorite part of the summer? I'll give this one just to you, Kyler, because you weren't here this last week. Adam, thanks for coming back and throwing a question in. Your first one of the year here. How was your off season, Kyler? How was the summer going into the fall?
Dude, way to ask me who didn't do anything but work. Dude, it sucked.
The mid-30s grind.
Off season sucked. I just grinded to try and better myself in the future, trying to be an adult here. So, yeah, dude, life sucks. Let's get a helmet and play football.
I like that. Move on from summer. Too much work there, Adam. Enjoy your youth.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it right back to you, Kyler, because Casey Everett messaged in for us, and he wants to know, he's been wanting to ask us what we all think about the transfers that have gone to NAU, and they're especially with their 4-star quarterback out of Cal, and he's going to be starting. What do you think about NAU this year? What do you think about the transfers? Do you have any faith in them in the Big Sky?
No. I don't think their coach is good. I think all of the talent they have brought in does not work out at NAU. No, I mean, unfortunately, Casey, I have no ill will against NAU, and I actually hope that they do better. Living in Arizona for a long time, dude, I love Flagstaff, and as a Big Sky program, you're probably one of my favorites that I don't hate, and I hate a lot of Big Sky programs, but from what I've seen, all the talent you guys have brought in, none of it has translated on the field. It seems like every single year under your head coach, you kind of get worse. I don't know. I'm not impressed. Maybe this 4-star Cal kid can do something, but it's not like the Incarnate Word guy who was actually playing. This guy didn't play, and he had nowhere else to go, so he transferred down. So I don't know. I don't like it.
All right, we'll see if you can prove him wrong there, my man. Jamie, with the FBS rating some FCS conferences over past years and convincing these schools that they can compete, with some of the conferences rushing to add teams, does anyone foresee in the near future of having some sort of FCS super conferences and having them have a championship game? Danny Johnson is curious if we're going to see some sort of the psycho craziness that's gone on at the big FBS level happen at the FCS level. Do you see that happening or no?
I don't. I mean, I know the CAA is up to 16 teams, and I think they tried to petition to get a conference championship game a few years ago, but there was nowhere to put it anyways. as fun as it might be, also the funding's not going to be there. How do you determine where it is? Probably would have to be at a school site. I don't see it. Um, we got the playoffs. We got a 2014 playoff, which is better than a single conference championship game anyway.
Absolutely. Kyler, what's your opinion of kickoff games in Montgomery? 20% full stands, 100-degree days. Derek Comena wants to know. You have been vocal on Twitter and all about this.
Dude, it absolutely sucks. I just feel like I'm so negative this whole podcast. Maybe that should be my new title and nickname, just Negative Kyler. Dude, it absolutely sucks. Everything about it, ever since they brought it down to Alabama, has been shit. They're doing teams no one cares about. I mean, again, you have North Alabama. You're doing a neutral site game in Alabama. You would think you'd have more than 4,000 fans. And I know they said they're 5,000. I don't even think there was that. It looks pathetic on TV. It's against two teams no one cares about. Go back to the days where Sam Houston State traveled to Eastern, and Kevin Marshall can say all that he wants. There was 10,000 fans in an 8,000-seat stadium. It looked phenomenal. Go back to NDSU traveling to Montana. Take contenders who are good every single year, bring it back to their home stadium, and actually showcase how good a good FCS program can be at home in front of their fans. Don't do this neutral site crap against two teams no one cares about, two teams that have never been successful. It doesn't work, and it looks worse for the FCS. It's only painting us in a worse direction. It looks pathetic. I'd rather watch an NAI game, go North American versus whoever the cares how to keep it almost PG. Yeah, dude, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. This is stupid. I hate it. Everything.
Cheers to that. What an answer. I love the passion.
My alcohol's gone. I'm getting pissed.
Good. I love it. What's the deal with low U.S. Bank ticket sales, said Alex Kenkel, and will I be able to move down to empty seats at U.S. Bank Stadium, says Scott. You will be, Scott. Yeah, absolutely. I'll be up near the nosebleeds, bought like 12 tickets in a row for my whole family and everybody's kids and everything. So I'm going to be in the nosebleeds intentionally to walk kids around that stadium. But U.S. Bank Stadium low ticket sales, yeah, NDSU football right now is, I've always said this, it's come back to normalcy of what NDSU football is. It's capable of, on average, roughly anywhere from 10 to 12,000 fans that attend the games and the home games, the diehards that'll always be there. The outliers were the championships. Like, those are outliers. This is what we are. It's what we're capable of. But football is expensive. NDSU football is expensive. I think they made a lot of mistakes raising ticket prices and team maker fees to astronomical heights for an FCS program instead of just, and they did well with donations, but pushing even more for private donations when things were so hot, when people were just killing to have better seats or get their foot in the dome, they just raised ticket prices. Then add in COVID, add in people reevaluating priorities, add in people's lifestyles, and interest in butts and seats, they're going to dip. So there's a lot of outside factors there, but yeah, there's going to be availability, and it's just not the rocking Bison big crowd that it used to be.
Giant stadium too.
So giant stadium. Yeah, for sure. And Kelsey's wondering just how bad are the mosquitoes in Minnesota? How much bug spray do I need? Boy, it depends how much alcohol you put in, depending on the mosquitoes coming at you. But you're not in Lakes country, thankfully, in the middle of the downtown Minneapolis.
Same as Cheney.
So you're going to be safe there. And I'll bring plenty of Sour Patch Kids to offset any mosquitoes. They hate sour stuff. So Jamie Williams, Ben Schleger wants to know, who are your preseason award winner candidates to watch? You covered a few last week. Change anything in a week for you?
I mean, if Jason Brown keeps playing like he did, he'll get on that list pretty quick. I expect if he keeps playing like that, he'll be on the watch list midseason. I mean, it's the same guys. You got your Michael Hires, your Jaden Sheridan, your Theo Day. Rev is pumping Zach Calzada. I think he's going to be very good. Let's see him play there. So there, as far as Buchanan, the two guys at William and Mary, I keep bringing up, John Pius, Nate Lynn. You got Jacob Dobbs from Holy Cross. Outside, there's always an HBCU guy on the defensive line that flashes. This year, keep your eye on Sundiata Anderson of Grambling. He's a big, big man. He's hard to control. I think he's going to have a great season. He's going to be somebody to look out for. And if since it's Overreaction Monday, if you're thinking about somebody for the Eddie Robinson Award, TC Taylor made his team look pretty damn good so far.
Damn. Best in the business, I tell you what, guys. All right, last one of the quick hits here, guys. The Rev, Dustin Helton wants to know, what's a drink that you think people pretend to like because they feel like society wants them to like it? Dang, this is a good question. This is dang good. Well, Kyler, you had the most unique drink tonight for sure. Some blue liquid,
Oh, it was fantastic.
making me think you're on Tatooine, Star Wars original. Shout out there. What do you think? Yeah, Jamie's like, nerds. What is a drink that you think people pretend to like because they feel like society wants them to like it? We will answer any question asked, guys, even if it's not FCS. Do you have one of those?
I mean, Fireball, it's trash, and yet people still keep drinking it all the time. I mean, I have no clue why. Every
tastes
time
like
I
the
go
Red
to a
Dots.
football game, I am drinking Fireball. I don't like it. Stop buying it for me, but if you do, I'll drink all of them. Yeah, I don't know. That's the only one. It sucks.
The answer in general, beer.
Yeah, I mean, depending on light beer is not good.
Beer.
I keep drinking it.
Give me something with a liquor in it, and I'm good. I'll drink a beer because it's there. That's what we have as tailgate.
I don't get teas like in the gas station. Like people are like, "Oh, I'm going to get a tea." I'm not. How does that sell?
Ugh.
It's disgusting. It's like the grossest thing I've ever had. People are like, "I love a good tea." I'm like, "No, you don't. You like Gatorade and Powerade and soda.
I love
and
tea.
water for survival, and occasionally milk."
What's next? 7-Eleven sushi?
I
Get outta
don't
here.
get. I do not get
I'm
the
with you,
tea.
Matt.
Like, Jamie, if you're telling me I'm coming to your place in Virginia and you're like, we're going to go out on my deck or my porch or whatever out in the yard, and I'm going to make you a Virginia tea. I have a feeling that that's probably pretty good because you've got some homegrown amazing thing. But the thing in the gas station where there's these 7 teas, I've never cracked one of those and ever enjoyed the experience.
Oh, no, not those. Yeah, you're right. Those are trash.
I don't even think, I think there's a rule where they're supposed to be in
I'd
the
rather
gas
have a
station.
glass of milk
Yeah.
from a
I'd rather-
gas station.
And milk was a bad choice. Oh, man. What's not a bad choice is our choice for game of the week, which I switched halfway through the podcast. So we'll see how good Kyler and Jamie are with this sucker.
This is the matchup you should be paying attention to. This is the FCS Fans Nation Game of the Week.
All right, guys. Initially, I had Austin Peay versus Southern Illinois, who are both receiving top 25 votes. 40 top 25 votes of some kind for Austin Peay, 66 for Southern Illinois. Will be a phenomenal game, but I feel like we absolutely have to switch this to Jackson State versus the Rattlers. I will admit I forgot about this matchup, which is pathetic because this matchup is going to be, I think, really, really, really good. So Rattlers versus Jackson State, and I've said it before, I have had faith that the Rattlers, even with the talent and the other things and what you saw last week, I think the Rattlers are taking it. I think it's going to be an absolute hit you in the mouth. So much passion, so much anger between these fan bases. This is a long time coming. Prime had his time, and I think the Rattlers are going to take advantage of Jackson State. I think that team's ready to win. I think they're ready to finally claim their title, and I hate snakes. So I'm going to take the Rattlers to win in an extremely good game. I'll say 27-24. Rattlers take the victory. Jamie, who you taking? Snakes or Tigers?
Last week, I flipped at the very last second and went with Jackson State. And all year, I've just been seeing Willie Simmons and his well-coached Florida A&M team are going to run through. They're going to go to the Celebration Bowl. And damn if I'm not going to go back on that at the first chance I get and pick Jackson State by a touchdown.
Tigers. All right, Kyler, split the difference, my man.
Yeah, so in the preseason, I think I even posted on Twitter I would take Florida A&M in this matchup because I think the talent level that Jackson State lost was just too dang much. That is not true. I don't even think this is actually going to be that close, to be honest. Give me Jackson State 34-17. I think their defense looked absolutely phenomenal. I think it looked fantastic. Their offense looked like it didn't miss a beat. Maybe their weakness is their rushing team, which was still fantastic. Yeah, give me Jackson State. They got a game experience. They're pumped. They got the energy. The fan base is behind it. Yeah, it'd be hard for me to bet on the Rattlers right now.
Wow. Okay. All right. 2 for the Tigers, 1 for the Snakes. We will see how that plays out, gentlemen. Well, that does bring us to the end of the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Before we get out of here, though, guys, with the game of the week comes one of our other amazing sponsors, the Versus Sports Simulator, and we would like to thank them for their sponsorship of our show tonight. FCS fans, are you ready for some exciting sports predictions that could take your game day experience to a whole new level? Well, hold on to your jerseys because I've got something you're going to love. I would like to introduce you to the Versus Sports Simulator, your ultimate game changer when it comes to sports predictions. Now, I know FCS football might not have betting like some other sports, but that doesn't mean we don't still enjoy the fun of simulating hypothetical FCS matchups, right? With Versus Sports Simulator, you get access to accurate predictions for FCS college football games. Imagine being able to dive into detailed insights about upcoming matchups and making your game day predictions even more exciting. You're not just guessing anymore, you're strategizing. Versus was nearly 75% accurate on all FCS games last season. But here's the kicker, pun intended. Versus Sports Simulator isn't limited to FCS football predictions. If you're a fan of any sport, from college football to the NFL, this is your golden ticket. By subscribing, you're unlocking the potential to make smart betting decisions based on tried and tested math-based predictions. And here's the touchdown pass. I've got a special treat for you exclusively as a loyal listener of our podcast. Use the promo code FCS Fans Nation when you sign up on versussportssimulator.com, and you'll score an incredible 20% off your subscription. You heard that right. Just head over to versussportssimulator.com, create your account, and enter the promo code FCS Fans Nation at checkout. So whether you're ready to elevate your FCS game day experience or you're eager to take your bets to the next level with predictions for other sports, Versus Sports Simulator has you covered. It's like having a crystal ball for sports, only it's backed with real data and expertise. Remember, promo code FCS Fans Nation is your key to a 20% discount. So what are you waiting for? Let's make every game day count with Versus Sports Simulator. Hey, thank you, Versus Sports Simulator and Walk On Apparel for sponsoring our show. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our third episode this year as we are marching into week number 1. Kyler Neal, final thoughts before our Eastern Washington Eagles and NDSU Bison collide in US Bank Stadium and we kick off a fun week of football.
North Dakota State has never done anything remotely good for anything. There's a shitty team, shitty program. I couldn't even count how many games they've won. It's probably 5 or 6 total in the last decade, maybe just against Eastern. I can't wait for the game, Matt. I love you. I hate you this week, but I love you. Hopefully it is a good game, and hopefully Eastern has improved, and hopefully NDSU Hopefully NDSU sucks, but I don't think they're gonna. So, yeah, man, it's been fun. I missed you guys last week.
We missed you too, my man, and we are excited to get games underway. And I just want to say one thing before we go. I'm going to seem a little different here in this comment because normally I have to take the high road because NDSU, they just run over everybody and destroy everyone and they wreck everything. Well, guess what? That's not us anymore. That's the Rabbits. It's not the Bison. So I can be a cocky douchebag like everybody else now, and I can just
won 3 games.
I can say whatever I want. It's the Rabbits world. We all hate them, so I can brag about my team who's going to finish 4th or 5th in the FCS. So I look forward to destroying the Eagles and then finishing like 9-3 this year, and just having a fun time. Just
what
having
happens
a good time.
When we're up in the 4th quarter by 7? Do you shit your pants?
That's why I bring the kids. I say, "Oh, sorry, yeah, my kid's freaking out. I just really can't talk right now. I gotta get him out of the stadium."
And I've only trash talked a kid when I've been with you. So
yeah, that's
put your kid on the speakerphone. Let me go after him.
Emmett, he'll tell you because I'm a Cowboys fan. He'll say, "We don't like the Green Eagles," is exactly what he will say, and by that he means Philadelphia.
Makes sense. I like it.
Well, we'll see who looks like a kid or who looks like an adult on the field this weekend. We hope you guys enjoy your games. Thanks for joining us for the FCS Fans Nation podcast. We'll catch you guys next week. Enjoy the games. Boo!
Thank you for listening to the FCS Fans Nation podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred listening platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, or even YouTube. And make sure to follow our FCS Fans Nation social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for listening to the premier podcast for FCS football. Boom!
I had a line to open this one. What was it? It was good too. I thought of it like 10:30 last night. Now I'm blanking.
You're trying to troll me.
No, it was good. It was a good one.